Welcome in everybody to the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. My name is Robbie Lastella, alongside my co-host Christian Prosha, and we're joined tonight by special guest FAU quarterback Kasen Weisman. Kasen, how's it going tonight?
It's doing good. How are y'all?
Man, I'm doing good. I am happy to be on here in better spirits. Sometimes we do these, and we follow the team pretty closely, so we get highs and lows just like y'all a little bit. So, but it's doing good to be on here. Kasen, last week must have been a little bit of a big week for you personally. I mean, post game, I see the family on the field. That is amazing. You get that first win. You get that first touchdown. What was last Saturday specifically, like for you, kind of emotionally wrapped up?
Yeah, it was definitely a little overwhelming considering some of the stuff that I've been through. When I scored, it didn't really hit me until I got to the sideline. I was like, man, I just scored my first college touchdown. I was like, that's kind of crazy. But it was just fun to go out there and get a big dub going into the bye week with me and the boys.
And so I want to ask because Tom mentioned in the press conference this week about 40 to 50 of your teammates are affected by Hurricane Helene. Is everything okay with your guys' family, or are they just down here for family weekend?
Yeah, everything's good. They're up in Atlanta, so they got a lot of rain and stuff like that, but everyone's fine.
Well, that is good. What's also good is that you're here. The process coming to FAU. I'm sure Herman wasn't anticipating quarterback injuries for number one and two. So you're here now at FAU. But kind of want to take a trip back a little bit because you mentioned, your high school recruiting process after the game on Saturday, and so if I read between the lines a little bit from what I've seen in these recruiting articles and whatnot, it seemed like you decommitted from Kansas at a high school. 27th ranked quarterback decided to go to Colorado. What was the high school recruiting process like for you, and back going back to Colorado? What kind of led you to go there?
Yeah, my high school recruiting was definitely a weird one, that's for sure. I had a huge junior season in high school. I didn't really have that many offers. A couple small ones, FCS schools, and then really overnight after my junior year, like everything just blew apart. I got probably 25 offers in a span of like 3 weeks. Kansas came in. I love the staff there. I knew what they did at other schools. I jumped on the train before everything really started rolling for them. They let me build a whole class around me, like go get the people I wanted and stuff like that. So that I fell in love with them. I was committed for 10 months, 9 months, something like that. So my recruiting was a wild journey, but it all worked out at the end.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a wild journey. You talked about this a little bit over the summer. You mentioned being from a small town, Douglasville. Is that your hometown, Douglasville? Is that where you're actually from?
Yeah.
Okay. So from Douglasville, small town in Georgia, and then you go under the lights at Colorado. And you mentioned that might have not been the easiest thing right away. You go from Douglasville to Quavo on the sidelines. But do you feel now like kind of, having played a little bit here in year two for you and seeing a little bit more of what goes on now, you feel like maybe that kind of play helped you out a little bit, or is it just something you look back on as like, wow, I went through that?
I would say I look back on it, and at the end of it, it really makes sense for me. Like, it was a good learning experience for sure. Like, going out there and experiencing some of those things that I experienced with those people and stuff like that, it was a learning experience. It was definitely a fun one.
So I gotta ask, was there, a lot of people a lot of the media, the big media, they love talking about Colorado, and sometimes things get painted in a negative way. But now that you've stepped away from that a little bit and you've moved away from Colorado, looking back on it, are there any positive people that may have come out of it for you, or things you may take away where you're like, this is the positive thing?
Yeah, a lot of people paint the narrative on them that they're bad people and stuff like that. And when people leave, they start saying stuff. I think it was a program just trying to get itself on its feet. Especially, he had to get a recruiting class in 3 weeks, and all that thing. So a lot of stuff combined to people's emotions and stuff when they type on social media. But they never did anything me wrong. I met great people when I was out there. My coach that recruited me mainly, that he's the head coach of San Diego State now. Great guy. He helped me in the transfer portal and everything. So I met a lot of great people.
Sean Lewis, offensive mastermind out there at San Diego State. But then things work out for you. You transfer to FAU. What was the difference between the portal the first time around to doing the transfer style this time now with NIL and everything that goes into transferring?
Yeah. The transfer portal at first was very confusing to me because like I said, I had a good amount of offers coming out of high school. So when I hit the portal at first, I was like, the first like 2 days, nothing came. This is not good. And then my phone started ringing. I had some big schools call me and stuff like that. And then I was probably going to go to Florida out of the portal until something with my grades got messed up until the end, and I had to go home for that 6 month period.
You hear about that would have been crazy with everything going on in Florida right now. Why the quarterback competition was there? It's crazy to think how things may work out. But Christian, what were you gonna say?
Question I had for you was high school recruiting versus portal recruiting is obviously completely different. Being a 16, 17-year-old kid, you're going through this for the first time versus being in a college locker room, being in a college environment. How did your thought process change, and how did you mature in your college search over that period of time?
Yeah, I would say going out of high school, it's more like we tell you you're the best person in the world, you're this, you're that. And when you're in college and you're in the portal, it's more like strictly business. Like, you know what it is, they know what it is. You're going in there to play football. It's about nothing outside like family feel or nothing like that. It's really mostly business.
Mm.
And then with that also just because obviously the college process originally when you're in high school completely changed for you. Like you said, you just absolutely blew up. It definitely wasn't overnight. That was blood, sweat, and tears for years since you were a little kid to get to that moment. But being committed to Kansas for so long, and then I don't want to say flipping the commitment because I don't like using that, but changing your commitment to Colorado, what was really the process around that like?
Yeah, so I was in school one day. Some schools were still calling me, but I really had no interest in flipping or whatever you want to call it. And then one day, Coach Prime and Lewis called me when I was in school and I answered the phone. I was actually in English class. I answered the phone. I was like, "Oh my God, this is Deion Sanders," because we weren't doing anything. And I was like, my teacher, I was like, "Can I go in the hallway real quick?" And she was like, "Just go to your car." So I went to my car. He offered me a scholarship. He wanted me to come play quarterback for him. That's what he told me. Lewis was actually one of my third offers in high school. And then when I started blowing up, he still texts me every single day, just on some friend stuff. He would text me, he would send me memes and stuff like that because he knew I wasn't going to Kent State, but he was just a great dude. And then he called me and was like, "Let's do this thing. I'm at a place I can go get you now. Let's do this." So then I took a visit, probably December. There was a lot of backlash between Kansas and Colorado in the moment, like with me, and like there were Kansas was flying to my house telling me like, don't do this, you know. At the end of the day, I decided I was going to go on the visit because I felt like it was something I couldn't miss out on, especially how hot it was. I didn't want to have any regrets looking back about what if. I went out there, and then let's just say once I went out there, I was hooked. I wanted to be a Buffalo, so.
It's kind of crazy to hear about that side of it and how much pressure is probably on a 16 17 year old. You don't really hear about what goes into those type of offers. You're sitting in English class and oh my gosh, Prime's calling. But I feel like that's type of stuff that kind of molds people, and it seems like the whole process has worked out for you to this point. But something Tom Herman talked about, which he didn't elaborate much on, but we wanted to ask you a little bit and hear your side of it. He mentioned that you, at some point in your career, considered stepping away from football. What kind of went into that decision? And now, having won your first extended action, scored that first touchdown, you feel like you made the right choice?
Yeah, so probably about this time last year, I would say I was in a pretty dark place. It wasn't the greatest mindset to be in where I was at. I was a long way from home. I was an 18-year-old. It was snowing and everything. I'm in the mountains. It was not what I was used to. And then when I hit the portal, I was like, let's hit a reset button and let's start this thing over. And then when I figured out I couldn't go to college in December or enter in January, I was like, man. So I had to go home, got a job, started driving Uber at like 2 a.m. So at that, about 3 months into that, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna ever play football again. Like it was just sitting on my head. And then my mom, I started being really lazy. My mom, which I've never been my whole life, my mom and dad were like trying to get me out of bed. I was not in a good place. And then my mom, finally, about 2 months before the spring portal opened, we sat down and had probably a 30, 40-minute conversation. She was like, do you really want to do this anymore? And we had to have a heart-to-heart. I had to look in the mirror and be like, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to drive Uber the rest of my life, or do I want to have a chance to do something with it? So I started throwing again, working out, entered the portal in the spring.
That's wow. I've only done, I will say, I've only done Uber Eats. You definitely don't want to do that for your whole career. Definitely not the way to go. But that's a lot of, you mentioned everything you went through, in high school decision making. That's a whole different level of stress on you right there. And you seem like you really handled it quite well. How much has your family kind of supported you in your decision making, both coming here and really everything football wise?
Yeah, my parents have always supported me through the thick and thin. I don't think my parents probably have never missed a game for me. From middle school baseball, travel ball to football, they've been at literally almost every single game. Especially with recruiting, they kind of let me pick my path. They didn't really have any ties anywhere. They were just supportive. Obviously, they had their opinions at the end of where I should go in my high school career and where I shouldn't. But yeah, they've always been there for me, especially my brothers and my stepmom, my sister too, the extended part of the family. They've been there for me too.
What you got, Christian?
And then with the family ties and the family talks, I do want to piggyback into that. Being able to score your first collegiate touchdown on FAU's family night. What does that mean to you? Because obviously family was in the on obviously family was in the stands, but being able to have everybody's families out there and just a celebration of family, what was that like to you?
Yeah, like to me, it was 14 years of them taking me to practices, them doing all this to get to that moment. It was pretty crazy. I definitely shed a tear when I got to the locker room. I was like, wow, I was like, this is crazy right now. But yeah, I was so happy that they were there and got to experience that with me.
And then another one that I got for you is because we've all been through tough times throughout our lives. We've all battled adversity. Coming out of what you went through with the dark times, coming out of the portal, driving Uber, what drives you to get out of bed today?
Yeah, it probably just what I want to leave behind when I'm done with all this, and what I want see my kids' view of me. And it doesn't have to be fully with football, but I've already put 15 years into this, so I was like, let's just ride this thing till the wheels fall off, because I was like, we've already put this much time into it. But yeah, it probably comes down to what I want to leave behind after I'm done with all this.
And then following up again, just almost having it getting taken away from you. Like you said, 15 years of just blood, sweat, and tears, almost having it get taken away from you. Does it make you appreciate the game now more, being able to come back, battle the demons, come back and ball out?
Yeah, so in high school, I had a pretty bad shoulder injury, um, and then I ripped my face open too in the same play. But my shoulder injury was pretty severe. So at that point, I'd probably say it hit me then that this can be taken away that fast. Because before that, I never, maybe a broken collarbone in football, but nothing crazy outside that. But that probably hit me then. It was like, you got to enjoy this while you can, because it could be taken away from you. It could be your last play forever at one point.
That's, yeah. And I noticed it in the press conference. I noticed when people come into those type of situations, just really excited. I mean, you were after a victory, but that might be expected a little bit. You really just looked like you just were really happy to be playing football, and that's what you said. You reminded me of a guy named Jalen Wester who played for FAU last year. He comes into the press conference, his nose is bleeding, but he's still got a big smile on his face. But you kind of feel like you found the joy in football again now, having being back here now playing, but also going through the reps, everything that you've seen at FAU.
Yeah, it probably was just a big thing that I got on the field. I was so excited when they finally said, "Kasen, it's your turn to go." I was so excited because it's the first time I've stepped foot on a football field in 2 years for actual play. So I thought when I was running out there, I got a little emotional in my head. I was like, "All right, now let's calm down. Let's do this thing. Don't overdo it."
Yeah, I know. That's what Tom said. He said you were doing a little bit too much in there in the beginning, but you found your stride in there in the second half in a big way. But kind of off the field a little bit. Boca Raton, it's a lot different than Colorado. It's probably a much it's different than Georgia, but it's probably closer. But what has the community been like for you? Have you gone off campus at all and enjoyed the Boca Raton community?
Yeah, but not to say not a lot. We've had a lot of football going on, but
Yeah.
it's nice being next to a beach, being a tropical environment. It's kind of like Georgia. When I went to Colorado, it was a total 360. I was going into something I had no former insight on or anything like that. But being here, it definitely feels more like home.
Hmm.
Did you sell
I,
that winter coat?
Yeah, I left that in Georgia though.
I gotta ask. So everyone sees the celebrities at Colorado, but for your first career game where they announce you're coming in there for some extended time, FAU brings out the celebrities of their own. What was that like? How involved? I gotta ask. How involved were the AJ and Big Justice, and was that something you guys were like this is happening? Like, what was the thoughts about that like in the locker room?
Yeah, if I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of the kids on the team probably didn't even know who he was. Um, he was a nice dude. Him and his kids were in the locker room and stuff. I didn't really know. I didn't realize how big he was until after the game. I got on social media and saw some other. I was like, wow. But I would say the celebrity difference was probably a little different from Colorado to that.
Yeah, Quavo and Big Justice, different types of celebrities, but he's still got the big following, so they're doing something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Nah,
know
hey, he's making his money somehow. So
I don't know what it is he's doing right, but he's doing it.
yeah,
Kind of winding down here though, Case, and you guys now as a team sit at 2-3. Alex Akovich, he said he felt a sense of buy-in with this team that he hadn't seen that quickly in the span of between UConn and last week. He hadn't seen that type of buy-in that quickly in his 4 years here. You guys feel like the locker room is shifted a little bit now? You guys are ready to attack conference play.
yeah. You could definitely feel the spark, especially during the game. Uh, we have a very, very talented team, and I wouldn't really just be saying that. We honestly really do. We've had a couple mistakes at a couple positions where it's hurt us, I would say. But our team has bought in since the summertime. They really want to win. Coach Herm wants to win. We all deserve to win. We put so much into this, probably a lot more than people know. And knowing a lot of friends at other schools, I'm asking them during the summer, I'm like, what are y'all doing during this? And they're like, yeah, we're not doing anything close to what y'all are doing. I'm like, oh my God. But we deserve to win. The team knows we can win. I've definitely felt a buy-in, but I feel like it's been there the whole time. It's just I feel like we finally got to show it a little bit on Saturday, and hopefully that sparked everything for the rest of conference play.
Christian, you had something?
And then with that buy-in, obviously, two totally different situations, like we said, environment-wise, like naturally environment-wise. This is not a clickbait question or anything like this is not a clickbait question, but being able to come in, coming out of Colorado, come to FAU. What are some of the things that like Coach Herman and the staff have done to help your development, not just as a player, but also as a person?
Yeah, for sure. Herm and them, before I even came here, it was like, one thing you're going to do is you're going to be developed. that was a big thing for me. No shot at Colorado. They had their dude, obviously one of the best dudes in the nation. Great guy, great teammate. But they had their guy, and they kind of just went with that. And all other quarterbacks were kind of just sitting there. So I feel like I didn't get much better from my span of high school for my whole year there. But when I got here, I felt a crazy jump in about 3 months. And I was like, wow, like the ball was coming off my hand better. I was learning more just football-wise. And then just as a person, being around these people, it's definitely a family feel. At home in Colorado, you had to be somewhere there was cameras all the time. That was one thing I was probably like, wow, which is a good thing. But being here was definitely like tied me down and just let me be me.
And so, now looking towards this end of the season stretch for you personally, I mean, we talked about the team goals, but, you've gotten that little bit taste of experience. We don't know. I don't know. We don't know. Maybe but we don't know, at least from where we're at, what the quarterback position is going to be looking like heading into the rest of the season. But are there any personal goals maybe that you want to accomplish before the season's end?
Win a championship. That's it.
They trained you on that one, or has that just always been your
it's all on the table. We can still go get this. So
there you go. No, that is true. Conference play heating up. Kasen, so you said your family comes to all the games, right? They're coming to be supporting.
Yes, they will be there.
I love that. I love seeing the families out there for all the guys. I think that's really important. But Kasen, thank you for taking some time to speak with us tonight. Where can the people find you at on social media?
Follow my Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. It's all the same, Kasen.Weisman.
You heard it right there. Follow him on TikTok. Most definitely. I'm sure the team will be getting some locker room videos, some dances going on or something.
Probably.
Kasen, thank you again. We're going to take a quick break here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. When we come back, we're talking everything AAC. That's FAU quarterback Kasen Weisman. Welcome back, everybody. What time is it? It's just after 8:30 here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Robbie, Lastella, Christian here following our Kasen Weisman Spotlight. That was one of my favorite interviews I've done in quite a while. It's been a minute since we've had one on here on the Lastella Report, but Christian, that's a heck of a story if I've heard one.
Agreed. From Uber driving to to FBS wins. I love it.
4 scoring drives, no punts in the second half, 3 touchdown drives. That's pretty good.
He's used to driving, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a crazy story. I mean, you hear about it sometimes in the pros when guys like, especially in baseball. Randy Dobnak did that for the Twins. He was an Uber driver and he got a job as a relief pitcher. And next thing you know, he's back in the pros. And he was pretty good. But you don't really hear about that a lot in college. I mean, maybe it happens and people just don't talk about it. But Kasen, respect to him for being open about, the grind, the struggles. I think that, maybe there's a high school kid out there who may not get the offer they want right out of high school. Wait your turn, wait your time. What comes to you will happen eventually. I think that's what I've learned a lot, covering college sports recently. I mean, even with CJ Campbell, that's a guy who's shown how talented he is. I mean, he had 15 carries, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns the last game, but he's just been grinding out yards every game, and he didn't get that type of opportunity at FSU. Comes to FAU. And now look at him, he's succeeding. It's all about where you get that chance, where you get that opportunity. And for Kasen and CJ, it's right here in Boca Raton. So for FAU fans, it's pretty good for y'all. I'm excited for this end of season stretch for FAU. See if they can turn that page, which they've been trying to do now for a little bit. Different chapters of each of the last 2 seasons, but a new chapter coming up after the bye week. And like I said to Kasen, maybe he knows if he's going to be the quarterback. He didn't tip us off at all. I don't know. But who's that? That quarterback room is some definite. It's not controversy. They're both. Cam looked good against Wagner in that first half. Kasen looked good in his extended time. 2 quarterback systems though are iffy. So I don't know. I don't know what they do. I really don't. I don't have a best option. I'm very interested to see, though, where FAU goes from here to try to figure out the quarterback situation. Because they've got 2 really good people, number one, Cam and Kasen, both stand-up individuals, which I think is really important. And from what I've heard, both come from stand-up families. And that's that leadership aspect of a quarterback. So rooting for them both, rooting for the extended success of the Owls. I'm an alumni, I can say I can root, but I don't root actively when I'm in the press box. But Christian, you missed out on Boomer Doom Day. You missed it?
Not really. I enjoyed I missed the game. I didn't miss the lead up. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of the trends. That's just my take. I'm not really big on just TikTok in general. Definitely not side eyeing to help make that comment a little better. But yeah, I was covering Inter Miami and watching Messi do Messi things. So I was content with where I was at. But it is always a shame not being able to go and support FAU, like you said, because being an alumni is one thing, but being an active student is another thing. And it's a little awkward answering all the texts of "Where are you? Why are you not at the game?" from all of my friends or from the bunch of cheerleaders. Like, "Where are you?" Because, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what you get. I mean, you should have been there. You got another chance. You can be there for the first conference game. You better be there.
Yeah, I'll be in North Texas, guys. I know y'all miss me. You miss y'all know where to find me. There's nobody with better hair on the field. So y'all know where to find me.
But going back to the I said this to Kasen. I don't know exactly what these Boomer Doom kids, AJ and Big Justice, the kid, dad.
Can we move on to conference realignment, please?
My last note is I don't know what they do, but they do it right because there was a line, where they have like the sandy pit area, then it wraps around like towards the subway.
Mm-hmm.
The line was wrapped around the building. So whatever they're doing it right. Shout out to Rob Rosselli and marketing for getting people in the building. That's one of the hardest things to do in South Florida sports. And I will admit I was like, what is the Boomer Doom? Why are we? What is this? But it worked out. The social media clicks were there. The fans were there. Left at halftime, but that was 7-point game versus FCS at halftime. People will leave. That is Florida. Like You can't get around that. But they were there when the game kicked off. I hope it worked out. I don't know the social media numbers, marketing. I hope everything paid off for you guys, because it looked like it was working out awesomely in the stadium. But before Christian blows his brains out, he doesn't want to hear any more about the Boomer Doom.
We've made it. War is over.
Yeah. Now diving into AAC talk a little bit, Christian. Last week was an interesting week around the conference, and I just want to plug, starting next week, we'll have Inside the American. I'll be hosting that, talking everything AAC, either on Thursday or Friday. We'll get that date figured out for you guys soon, but talking a lot of AAC here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Last week, it was an interesting one because USF, who comes into the season with very high expectations from the national media. What?
False hype.
I'm.
I'll say it. False hype.
They have an injury to their quarterback, Byrum Brown. So I don't want to. It's tough to say false hope. They played They played one of the hardest non-conference schedules, and they played Tulane. To kick off conference play, and so it's like, that's a tough start, and then your quarterback gets hurt, and so it's like, man, that's a bad beat for USF fans. I mean, that's it's straight up. It just sucks. I mean, injuries are not good for anybody. On the outside in, I was a little bit skeptical of USF this season. I didn't really see, Abdur-Rahman Yassin was kind of that big move at wide receiver to kind of help explode the offense a little bit, unless I'm missing somebody. But I feel like that was the big offensive move. And other than that, unless there were some pieces on the offensive line here and there.
Non-existent.
Say that again?
He's been non-existent throughout.
Yeah, they haven't. I mean, it's just been the Sean Atkins show again, which, that's not a bad thing. Sean Atkins is a very talented receiver. He's worked his way up in that program to make these type of plays. But, Abdur-Rahman had his biggest game of the season against Tulane, 5 balls for 84 yards, and 3 of those came from Bryce Archie, so the backup. So, I mean, I don't know if Byrum didn't have that connection with him or what, but they've got to figure it out and figure it out fast if Bryce Archie's the guy. I know they have another freshman that they like as well, but that's not good for the Bulls. Taking a look at their schedule,
they've got a 3-week gauntlet starting last week of just hell.
They're on bye, so they need this bye. They need to get healthy because so they come out of the bye. They got a little bit of a short week. I mean, on top of the bye, whatever. They play Memphis next week at 7 p.m. Games on ESPN. Everyone's going to be seeing that. That is Friday night, 7 p.m. ESPN. That was like Canes, Virginia Tech. Like, everyone was watching that game, and everyone's going to be watching this game. And so if South Florida comes out there and gets embarrassed by a Memphis team who needs to make a statement, they got that one loss, but they can still salvage their season and potentially compete for a playoff spot. A road win versus USF, blow them out, that's a statement, whether or not Bryce Archie or Byrum Brown is the starting quarterback. So I think if USF loses that game on national TV, not good, Christian.
Very, very not good, and that's the thing is that the belts are about to get brought out. I'm sorry. I saw, and this is not a good gauge. What I'm about to say is not a good gauge because Byrum Brown got banged up bad against Miami. Bryce Archie got thrown to the wolves. This poor kid has to get thrown out to have the best defense, statistically one of the better defenses in all of college football, breathing down this dude's throat.
Was that before Virginia Tech or after Virginia Tech when they were the best defenses?
Anyway, all in all, it was a tune into the Hurricane Watch from earlier to hear my analysis on the VT game. But Bryce Archie was getting swarmed. I think he got sacked 2-3 times. He threw 2 picks. So yeah. Honestly, that may be oh crap, why am I in the game right now? But then it's also he's got to man up quick, like you said.
They're gonna have to because after Memphis, I mean, they play the doomed. I mean, at Memphis, they play UAB at home after the Memphis game. If they lose that one, it's sayonara.
Boom!
UAB, because then they got to come here. I mean, I mean, then they play FAU. So, I'm hoping they beat UAB and they're not trying to come into FAU trying to make a statement. I mean, they might already, considering Tom Herman was going for onside kicks up 4 scores last year. Still a fan of that call, by the way. Got to make a statement versus in-state opponents always. So that, FAU, they got to be ready for USF to come to town the same way USF was not ready for FAU to come into town last year. But yeah,
I think they're going to rent Lambos to go to that game, or is that just a one-off?
Oh man, I don't know what they're doing for this game. They're gonna, if they don't have Byrum Brown, they're gonna have to do something. But before we, I mentioned UAB, and we got to talk about the negative AAC notes this week. There were some negative ones, but on a positive note, Christian, how about the service academies? Army and Navy.
Army-Navy game is probably going to decide. We might be getting 2 Army-Navy games this year. The way things are looking, we're going to get the Army-Navy game, and then we're going to get the Army-Navy game conference championship. I am all for that. Now, if Army wins the conference, it's okay. We lost to the conference champions.
That is true. Army has definitely surprised a lot of AAC teams this year, I think. I think, Jeff Monken is probably deserving of Coach of the Year. National Coach of the Year. Because, this is no respect to these young men who represent our country, but they're not recruiting these crazy athletic specimens. They're not recruiting the Ryan Williams of the world. That's just not who's going to play football at Army West Point.
They're a very fundamentally sound, locker room sound team.
Yes, and their coach, their coach has them ready to go into wherever they are going, and they're in a mission. They are in a mission. They've got a commander in Jeff Monken, and the troops are marching into wherever they go, and they are dominating. On the ground, another 400-yard rushing performance for them against Temple. They rushed for 417, 7.3 yards carry, 5 touchdowns. Kanye Udo, Bryson Daly, Noah Short. Maybe, I don't know, a trio of rushers in the country. Ashton Jeanty's pretty good, but is there 3 of him? No. There's 3 of these guys who can all bust a huge run at any time. If the blocking is there, which more than 50% of the time for Army, the blocking is there, they can bust out a big run. So Army, I'm looking at Army like they may go undefeated. They play Tulsa on the road this week. UAB at home. UAB's got to travel to West Point to play Army. Trent Dilfer, you're right. This is not Alabama. You guys, because Alabama isn't going to play West Point on the road, brother. UAB, they gotta figure that one out fast. But other than that, they go East Carolina at home, Air Force at home, North Texas on the road. Where they got to play that game sneaks in there. They got to play Notre Dame on the road, 7 p.m., November 23rd. If Army's going to lose a game, it'll be that one. But if they win that one, they are probably undefeated at that point. And then they're going, definitely, in my opinion, at that point, with a ranked win, is that enough? I don't know. As much, I wish it was like college basketball where you get a couple big wins like that. You could get an at-large. It's not like that in college football, but
I was about to say, Army goes lucky to just have 12.
Yeah,
we're lucky the G5s even get considered now.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Sorry, Coach Jacobs, for saying G5. Sorry.
And then with Navy. Navy has undefeated as well. When's their next time? Navy has to play Notre Dame too. So, that's not easy. I think Army has probably the better chance of beating Navy, but respect to Navy. I mean, Navy's doing their thing too. They run the sling tee. That's a mock of my offense in high school. I ran the wing tee. But they run the sling tee
in a lot more of an efficient manner than than the Robbie Lastella ran offenses of the league.
Hey! Leave out Coach Mo's offense, man.
I never dissed him. I only dissed you, my boy.
Oh man! But the sling tee with Navy, Blake Horvath slinging that thing around while also running for it. 47 carries, 450 yards, 9.6 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, and through the air, 637 yards, 14.5 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Their easiest game to this point for Navy, I believe, was Bucknell. They're not playing bums. Yeah, they played one FCS. They played Bucknell, beat them 49-21. Then they played AAC Temple, AAC Memphis, AAC UAB. They blew out Temple. They blew out UAB.
And they beat Memphis.
And if there wasn't a late game collapse for Navy, or it would have been a blowout completely, and they still won that game, which is impressive. And we'll talk about UAB in a second, but finishing up on Navy Army, I'm very interested to see what this end of the season looks like. I would love for back-to-back. I love the weird things. So, give me back-to-back Army Navy games, and that's weird. Sickos committee will be blowing it up on Twitter, and I'll be a fan.
I was about to say Sickos committee out here, because Army Navy game, there is no better game in college football than Army Navy. I don't care. They could be 0-11, both of them going into this game. I will take the Army-Navy game any day over Bama, Georgia, Miami, Florida State. I will take the Army-Navy game over any of it because they're legitimately playing for something a lot more than the game of football while still playing the game of football. And both of them, there is no plays off. And the wing tee will never die. The triple option will never die. Long live the triple option, as my dad loves to say. But Army-Navy game, we have the opportunity to watch 2 of those. It's a good year, my friend.
And it's impacting the American Conference. Those are national brands. Then, they're not as big as a Georgia or Alabama, but they've got fans around the country. They've got forts, camps, whatever the correct terminology is, around the country, bases around where there's people who support the Army and the Navy. So I am hoping, or actually it's not happening. Air Force already signed into the Mountain West. But that would have been cool. That would have been a really cool addition. But, I want to dive into the negative now, Christian. UAB's head coach Trent Dilfer had himself a rough weekend. UAB lost to Navy 41-18. It was just not a good day. I mean, they had decent stats, but their defense was burnt toast. And it was just not good on the field. But off the field, after the game, which is, really this whole thing is really unfortunate to me, especially with what's UAB's history as a program. I mean, they had their board of regents was majority controlled by University of Alabama alumni, and then they lose their football program. I believe it was in 2017. Gets shut down. Bill Clark brings it back. They fire Bill Clark, or Bill Clark has a heart attack or something. A medical issue. I don't want to say the wrong one. He has a medical issue, has to leave. Bryant Vincent takes over, who does well in his place. They fire him to go get Trent Dilfer. Bryant Vincent is now leading the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks to victories, which no one says that. No one says they're leading ULM to victories. Bryant Vincent can say that. But now they get Trent Dilfer. And Trent Dilfer, following the 41-18 shellacking at the hands of Navy, he wanted to bring his grandchildren up to the press conference, which I love. I believe Tom brings his grandson. I'm not too sure on the relationship with Herman, but he brings a family member up there sometimes that sits in the press conference. Brian White and his family, they sat at I love that stuff. I love when family is involved. I'm a big family guy. There is no problem with that. But listen, so Trent, I don't know why you decided to open your mouth. You shouldn't have. This is what Trent Dilfer had to say after the game.
With a game like this, with a team like this, with Navy,
that's the reporter. He's motioning for his kids to come up.
It's like 2 of them. It's not like this is freaking Alabama. Let's go.
Ooh.
Come on, bud.
Can't say that.
You can come up here.
Then slowly his kids walk up to the stage. So he says it's not freaking Alabama. No, that's correct, Trent. You're at Alabama, Birmingham. I think that says, I don't know.
Alabama wins football games.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know who he thinks he is. You're not ever stepping. I don't even know if they'll give him an analyst job at Alabama after what he's done at UAB. I mean, they've looked like a mess. And then to come out and say that, I think is disrespectful to the fan base. Who cares? They fought to bring back that program after it got destroyed. A football program was resurrected within 2 years, and they're back competing in the AAC. They could have been in FCS purgatory at minimum. They could have not even existed, and they had a fan base that brought it back. And I don't know necessarily why he said that unprovoked. I mean, no one mentioned Alabama. I don't even,
Nobody even made a backhanded comment of, yo, why are the kids coming up?
No, nobody said anything. Like
literally, it was. Hang on. Yeah, this ain't Alabama.
Yeah. It was like, what are we doing here, coach? And it's like, I saw some rumors on Twitter. I don't know if this is true, so take that with a grain of salt. But apparently the rumor was he was frustrated with the lack of reporters in that room. Number one, yeah, I mean, Alabama's playing Georgia that weekend. You're in Alabama. I'm sorry, UAB, you haven't had a good start to the season, so you're not pressing any media companies besides the volunteers who run websites like I'm not familiar, I'm sorry, with the fan outlets up there at Birmingham, but those type of people who run these not-for-profit outlets, those are the type of people who are covering that game.
We would love to have you as an affiliate of the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, though.
Something like that. And it's like we get, apparently he was frustrated that there wasn't a lot of media there because this is what he had to say when somebody asked him about that. They asked him, what are you saying? After the game, things can be missaid after the game. That is completely understandable. People can say things and you're mad, whatever. So some couple days later, you watch the film, taking showers, hugs your wife, hugs your kids, whatever. Somebody asked him, like, Coach, what do you mean? This is what he had to say.
During the post-game presser, you quoted, this is not freaking Alabama. What would you say to UAB fans who may have perceived this as something that you didn't mean to say, or could you just elaborate on what you meant to say?
Were you there?
I was not there.
Here's my answer.
Who do you think you are?
There were two people there.
Who do you think you are?
Okay, and my grandson wanted to come up, and I heard like a little stirring. I said, "There's two."
Who is stirring? There's two people there, brother. Who is stirring?
My grandson can come up.
You are aware of this program's history.
I am very aware of this program's history.
He's laughing. Oh my gosh, that is. I'm sorry. That is just disrespectful to. I don't know who asked that question. It might have been Steve. I hope it wasn't Steve Irvin, who's a very nice person who helped me when I had some UAB questions. I hope that wasn't him. No one deserved to be treated that way. Number one, apparently the reason he wasn't there, I don't know why specifically this guy wasn't there, but I know he covers the team on a consistent basis.
Because he was probably trying to watch real football. Sorry, Trent. I'd rather watch Ryan Williams.
And so you're going to say that. You're going to say that. He's going to say, yeah, there's two people here. Do you want those two people not to show up? Those are two people who care about your program and then are posting about it. And you know what? Maybe it's not 10 different outlets. Take your two outlets. Maybe one of them blows up, but instead, they probably did blow up, and it's negative stuff about you and your program. It's just embarrassing.
He will have a future career at KFC next year. I wish you nothing but the best.
He's going to be coaching high school football.
I wouldn't take it, but at least it's not as bad as the Charlotte OC ripping fans on Twitter.
Oh, Ryan Osborne is like. Oh, man. It's like last thing I want to say, and I'm going to tie this back to FAU. Tom Herman came from the University of Texas. Not once has he ever, at least in the public eye, belittled FAU in any type of way at all. And somebody on Twitter responded back and said that's not what Dilfer was trying to do, and I respect that. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know. But from the outside in, really looks like he's had enough, and he's just out here firing shots for no reason. For really no reason at all. But Tom Herman has never done that. Today, it was me and Megan from the University Press. Those were the two reporters, and Rick, who runs FAU Owls Nest. And that was it. That was it. Mitchell from FAU Athletics was there, but that was it. And he's never complained once. And this isn't the first time that's been that way. It's just how it is. And people just. I get where Trent Dilfer came from the NFL, but people need to just be. I don't want to say be like Tom, because I'm sure people don't want to replicate and be like somebody else.
Saban. Just be Saban.
Well, that's different. But Tom Herman came from a very big program and hasn't belittled FAU. Trent Dilfer, you came from the NFL, but you were coaching high school football before you came to UAB. Don't act like you're too big for UAB. But don't act like you're too big for UAB, brother.
Here's the thing.
Because I got news for Trent. It's going to get ugly before it gets better. It's going to get ugly real fast. If you lose the fans at Birmingham, you've got nothing. You literally have got nothing if you lose the fans. So hopefully they're able to figure that out. But yeah, moving on to Charlotte, I will say,
speaking of not having fans,
they have a pretty decent fan base, surprisingly. Because there's a lot of competition in the Carolinas, but I'm not going to say UNCC. No, Charlotte. Charlotte has a good fan base, and that's what I was really kind of disappointing to see. What occurred on social media this weekend. Let's see. So a reporter, he's a fan account at Niner Nuisance on Twitter. He posted a clip of this Rice dude just absolutely torching the Charlotte secondary. Happens, bad plays happen. Dude was wide open over the middle, broke 2 tackles, took it into the end zone. Happens. He's a tight end. Safeties try to tackle him. Whatever. Niner Nuisance said things get covered up in a win, but that has to be fixed. Yeah, missed tackles has to be fixed. And somebody said there was a face mask, whatever, and Niner says, doesn't change the fact 3 different guys had poor effort. And then Coach Ryan Osborne, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, says, real nuisance of a play. Wait, doesn't your brother work for us? So this guy, Niner Nuisance, who I'm assuming doesn't want his real personal identity to be out there, burner is very common, and he didn't say anything that warranted outing somebody's, family, whatever. He's just talking about the game. It happens. And then he tried to explain what he meant by that, and he said, which part do you want me to explain? Tight end delay screen where we had bad eyes, missed 3 tackles, or that his brother works in the building? I have 24 minutes of Q&A. Where did he keep going with this? Here we go. This was the worst comment. And so Niner Nuisance said, my brother has nothing to do with this and shouldn't be a topic of conversation. And then Coach Osborne says, things that people say can negatively affect families. Fan support, ? There's not support. I don't ever come on here and bash and criticize you guys, but when people say things on here, it works both ways. You can be critical and so can I. What do you mean? There's no support. They've sold out their past 3 games, Coach. And I mean, I get it. I don't know. I know Biff came from Michigan. I don't know where Coach Oz came from, but they're selling out. I mean, the stadium, it's not the biggest, but they're doing what the job is at hand. Fans are coming into the building. So, number 1, what are you talking about, Coach? Number 2, why are you arguing with fans on social media? But number 3, what I love and why I was a fan of Biff Poggi, and I'm still rooting for him to turn it around, because this was what he had to say about it. It's too quiet. You probably can't hear that. But basically, he comes out and he says that was wrong. He should have. He issued an apology, and he comes out and talks about the Niner fan base, highlights how good they are, that the games are sellouts. There are fans here, and number 1, the fan base cares. The fan base does care at Charlotte, whether Christian's covering Miami and doesn't want to believe it or not. The fan base cares at Charlotte. I'm sorry. You're covering ACC and North Carolina's fan base, which is going to be down to the size of a peanut by the end of the season. But Charlotte's got a pretty big fan base. And it just sucks to see two AAC coaches in a week where the AAC's value and fan bases are being questioned by the people of the pack. It just sucks to see you get people from the inside trying to tear it down. I am confident Charlotte's going to turn it around. I am very confident in Biff Poggi. I think he is a very good person. He's had some struggles adjusting to the college coaching level from high school. It seems like a little bit here and there, but he seems like a really good-hearted person. And like I said about Kasen and Cam, struggles aside, they are good people. And same thing for Biff. He's a good person. I think they're going to right that ship. Trent Dilfer, I don't think so. I think he's done before the end of the season and coaching high school football. Because not only did he say that, but he comes out in the press conference on Monday and doubles down on it. Insane.
I'm just looking forward to FAU's 2 guaranteed wins.
Yeah, I mean, both UAB, Charlotte. I think Charlotte will put up a tussle. I think by the end of the season, I think Charlotte will be having things turned around, trying to compete for a bowl. They're getting Max Brown back, and hopefully no more social media arguments. But looking at the pack a little bit, Christian, I mentioned them. Gonzaga going to play basketball over there. Rivals with San Diego State.
They just reloaded their basketball talent, bringing in. I said it the other day on your show, and I'm doubling down on that. But I'm actually going to say something positive. With conference realignment, they lost 3 teams to Big 10 and Big 12 that were tournament bid teams. The Pac was a 4-bid league last year. Losing 3 of them, obviously huge. They reloaded. They're returning Oregon State, who was a tournament team last year. They're getting San Diego State, who's a perennial tournament team, and then you're bringing Gonzaga, who's perennial national championship contention. That's really good for the conference, and it's really good for college hoops, because I'm glad to see that. All right, there's still an even talent spread between the other conferences, and it's not just Big 12 and SEC ball, because those are the 2 powerhouses of basketball. I will take the SEC and the 12 over the ACC this year. And then I legitimately do think that for the G5s, it's good for the American that Tulane and Memphis stayed, because the American has the opportunity of being a multi-bid league. Unfortunately, FAU's just had to carry the load over the past couple years. There was a couple pretenders in our conference.
That's what I'm saying. I see some Memphis fans out there talking about, the AAC is a 1-bid league. Well, brother, that 1 bid wasn't coming from you. It wasn't coming from you last year. Whatever happened last year, you better
Memphis.
Yeah, it's like, number one, it's been a multi-bid league now for the past. I mean, I don't know what happened the year before FAU joined.
It was a multi-bid league last year because UAB and us.
Mm-hmm. Not Memphis. Not Memphis. No. And now they've got, I believe, like 10 or 11 total active players, with like 2 of them being walk-ons. They got like half a coaching staff, including Nolan Smith, who was at DePaul with Tony Stubblefield. Or no, he was at Louisville, even worse. And who else did they get? They got Mike Davis, Detroit Mercy's head coach. So, those are very 2 tenured assistants, but they've just had some rough stretches. Hopefully, that doesn't rub off on the program. They got a lot of work to do. They've got to get bonding between the players and the coaching staff. I'm concerned about Memphis this year, but they've got a lot of top-heavy talent. I mean, Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty, those guys are ballers. But, Christian, we are approaching an hour of showtime here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, which means we are unfortunately out of time. If you want to hear me yap more about the AAC, please drop that in the comments. If there's enough demand this week, I might pull it together, try to do a show this week. But definitely next week, we start up our AAC show. officially here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, talking next week's games, what happened this week, and hopefully no more about Trent Dilfer until hopefully never again. Hopefully he keeps his job and I never have to talk about him again. But that was embarrassing. What occurred this week was embarrassing to him, the fans, the media, all of the above. That's my final thought about UAB. Huge shout out to Kasen Weisman for taking some time to hop on with us tonight. I feel like as a quarterback, you don't want to put yourself in a limelight sometimes, but Kasen was open, honest with us about everything he's been through, what he's liked about FAU, which I think is really important. So thank you, Kasen. Rooting for you guys here through the bye. Hope everyone. Last note here, actually, before I sign off. Tom Herman mentioned that 40 to 50 Owls this week were severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. Didn't elaborate too much about that. FAU does have a decent amount of players from Georgia stretching up the Appalachia region. So prayers for all those guys and everyone affected by Hurricane Helene. That was a really nasty storm. I know some people up there in the mountains of North Carolina, Asheville region. So praying for you guys. Hopefully things, some sunshine comes your way, and the rebuilding effort goes smoothly. Make sure to support the Red Cross, and I believe Red Cross is the best place to donate. I don't want to give a bad place, but Red Cross is out there, and prayers up for everyone affected by Helene. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. This has been the Lastella Report. That's Christian Proscia. Make sure to catch in his next show, which is either New Era Nightly or Canes Today.
New Era Nightly tomorrow night, 5:30. Be there.
Be there. Catch Christian. On Thursday, I'll be on Inside the Borough on the FAU Owls Nest channel. We're interviewing FAU Chief of Staff Matt Smidbush. So make sure to check that out. You heard from the players this week. We got the coaches for you on Thursday here during FAU's bye week. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. For Christian Proscia, I'm Robbie Lastella. We'll see you guys next time.